welcome to yet another exciting edition of the big interview with me, Seni M.K. Marina, live from our virtual studios here in Seattle. My guest today is Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Buba Bojang, former retired Army officer. He is also currently a legal officer with the FAO Rome office. Buba is joining us live from Rome, where he will be discussing with me the current security challenges confronting the country and also the security sector reform. Buba Bojang, welcome to the big interview with me, Seni Marina.
Yeah, thank you, Seni.
Welcome to the big interview with me, Seni Marina.
Thank you, Seni.
Thank you for sparing your time to join us.
Thank you,
yes,
Seni.
Thank you very much. It's great to have you here today. We have been trying to get rid of you to come and talk about the security challenges, security sector reform in the Gambia. For those watching us, this is the big interview with my guest, retired Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Buba Bojang. Buba Bojang, for those watching you for the first time, can you tell them who you are briefly?
Yeah, thank you, Seni. Yes, as you rightly mentioned, my name is Buba Bojang. I like to call myself Buba for shorten. I am a retired Lieutenant Colonel from the Gambia Armed Forces. I was the first legal officer from the Gambia Armed Forces in 2007. And then I was also state counsel because when I came from Nigeria as a lawyer, there was no Gambian lawyer at the criminal division of the Ministry of Justice. So there was this arrangement between the Armed Forces, Ministry of Defense, and the Attorney General that I moved to the Ministry of Justice and to become a lawyer there and become a state counsel, and also prosecute cases in all courts in the Gambia, provide legal advice. But at the same time, also my parent ministry work was also waiting. So I alternate between the Ministry of Justice and the Gambia Armed Forces. And I did that for effectively 5 years. And during the 5 years, another additional responsibility was added when I got my master's in international maritime law. I moved to the international maritime to Gambia Maritime Administration, where I become acting registrar of ships and seafarers, and also legal officer to Mr. Akibayo. He was one of the most seasoned civil servants that Gambia ever had. So effectively, I served 3 institutions at the same time for 5 years until 2013 when I left to do my PhD in United Kingdom, Scotland. Yeah. So briefly, that's Buba Bojang.
Very well. Such a very rich CV and a lot of accomplishment in your field of expertise. Buba, it's a pleasure having you on. Buba, you were among the military officers who were very highly accomplished, and then currently we have seen that the country is facing a lot of security challenges. When the new government came in 2017, they embarked on different reforms. They embarked on a transitional justice reform where the TRRC was established. They also embarked on constitutional building process. We gave birth to the Constitutional Review Commission and also embarked on security sector reform. Your area of expertise involves security. Can you tell us about the security sector reform and what is your take on the entire security sector reform process unfolding in the Gambia?
Thank you, Seni. This is a very important question, and let me just backtrack a little bit. The reason why I accepted this interview actually is because you persisted. I really appreciate that aspect of you. You persisted because you want to get something from me which you think will benefit our people and the systems in place. But just the rule is that I will not talk about politics. I will not talk about politics because I know my responsibility currently, and what I'm going to discuss with you is basically on security professionalism, which is devoid of politics completely.
Yes.
And also to share my experience
Absolutely.
when it comes to defending the rule of law and human rights, because these are very important, especially when a country is trying to move from what we all believe were the dark days to a brighter future. And so this is where I will come in. So don't ask me questions bordering on politics because I'm going to answer the questions.
No, this is why we have this talk. So I will grill you to ask questions. You know, it's your right to not to respond, but I will definitely ask you hard questions. You know,
no worries about hard questions, but not just on the issues that I will not discuss. Yes, we all know definitely that after 2016 elections, and just to tell you, although I was not in Gambia, but what brought all these issues was because after elections, Jammeh faced the former president, commander-in-chief. I had a lot of respect for him, definitely, to be frank with you. We can discuss that later, but I will tell you why I have a lot of respect for him. I didn't work with him directly, but I had occasions where I advised him on very tough issues, and where everybody thought maybe Jammeh was going to come hard on me. But in all the cases, tough ones, he accepted my advice. And that led to the freedom of many people. Some people did not go to mile 2 because of those issues. So to say I may not have.
I know that I will ask you a question where you serve as a court martial judge, you know, and you took hard decisions on those matters. Go ahead, doctor.
So when it's come to security sector reform, definitely, it was the right thing for the current government to do. It was the right thing to do. But I think at some point the process was missed. The opportunity was really missed. Why it was missed? Because I believe people who were tasked with the responsibility were not the right people. They were not the right people. These are people that I know personally. You know, some of them I served as their legal advisors, and some of them I work under them. So I know the capacity they have. And to be honest with you, at the time that Jammeh left, most of seasoned officers were either retired prematurely or you're dismissed. So we had this huge vacuum. So if you want to do a security sector reform, you have to put the whole security sector into 3 compartments. First compartment is the security sector under Sadauda. The second will be security sector under former President Jammeh. And the third will be, what's the plan? Where do we go from here? Now, I also, of course, during the time of Sadauda, I was not in the army. But we had a lot about them. And some people were in the army at the time. We knew them, we became friends, and they narrate very interesting stories about their time during the armed forces on the Gambian National Army under Sadauda. And you can see it in their behavior. They were professionals to the core. And we had the longest serving CDS, I think, was Babukar Jatta, if I'm not forgotten, or Lantombong. But Babukar Jatta, as a term, brought a lot of stability in the armed forces. The dismissals were not that rampant as it was under some commands. So he had that leadership quality in him, because the armed forces that Jammeh inherited from Sadauda were seasoned officers, including himself, you know, and those lieutenants who took over.
But when you talk about Jammeh like when Jammeh took power, the Sadauda army was very professional, but this was not reflective on the manner of these young soldiers who took power in 1994.
Yeah, that's when they took power in 1994. At the time, it was reflected on them because it was a global school at the time. Later on, of course, things changed, and that is not because you cannot blame them alone. But Gambia being Gambia, people started seeing opportunities and they manipulate the system. So this was the actual problem. But when they took over power, they were committed to the reason why they took over power. But much later, things changed. But the reason why they took over power, they were committed to that. Although as a lawyer, I would not say that coup is something that is illegal, and I would not condone coup. But as I said, in law, in fact, when there's a coup and it is successful, then there is what we call the doctrine of effectiveness. When you destroy a system effectively, and there was no civil uprising, then it is your obligation to now take over the system and run the system. That is what is called the doctrine of effectiveness, because naturally there is nothing called vacuum. If there's a vacuum in leadership, that is chaos itself. So that's why even on the international law, you have the occupation and the law of occupation. When you occupy a place, even though you are not the legal leaders of that place, the responsibility befalls on you to ensure that you provide the leadership so that there is no vacuum. So that was the case. But at that time, we had armed forces that was small but effective. The site was very sizable but effective. Yeah. So that was under Sadauda. Jammeh came, he hated that. But later on, a lot of issues set in the armed forces. There was a lot of expansion, so much of recruitment that I think the armed forces became very overpopulated. We are overpopulated at that time. And there was constant reshuffling of the system. And there were dismissals, premature retirements, and the quality of recruitment went down because I remember many recruitments, people coming with different lists. They said this list is from the commander-in-chief, this list is from this person, naming persons, and sometimes those lists didn't come. But the list will contain people who are not qualified to come into the armed forces in the first place. So these are issues that actually were part of the issues that slowly destroyed the professionalism in the armed forces. And because professionalism was slowly destroyed, what kicked in was a political interference of what happened in the armed forces. So it came to a point where even commanders were rendered powerless because they could not take any initiative. Because if you take initiative that is not popular, instead of praising you, you will get your marching orders, you will dismiss. If you stay professionalism, which is not in line with what they think, they term you as a politician. I remember. I'm very sad when I remember some of these issues. Was Captain Keita, I think at that time, Babakar Keita. Babakar Keita was in Farafenye, and all he did was, I think there was a UDP rally there, and then he provided security, which was okay, but the way it was related to Jammeh was to tell Jammeh that Babakar Keita is a UDP supporter or sympathizer, and then he would dismiss. Keita was one of the best soldiers we ever had.
So meaning these boys started to politicize the military as early as 1996, right?
Something like that, yes. That came in as early as no, I think not 96, no, but after 96. After the elections. So that's what, and then it continued. And it also continued because the leadership, we also had leadership problem. The leadership could not tell the president that this is not professionalism, this is not the military. They could not stand on their grounds. So whatever came from State House became the order. Whether it's right, it's not an issue anymore. So these are the problems.
And no one by then dared to challenge the status quo.
I think they could have challenged the status quo because you see, this is the problem we are facing in Gambia. Unfortunately, if you become a professional It's your choice. It's not something that is getting on a similar platform. No, it's something that you have to earn it. If you earn that professionalism, it means you have a principle. It means you believe in the professionalism. Anything that does not come with that principle, you cannot go in with it. You cannot. You should not. You should stand your ground. I'll give you a typical example, of the former foreign minister, Sida Job. You remember? I don't know whether you remember when some diplomats from the British High Commission were granted persona non grata.
Yes,
they had to leave. But then Sida traveled. He was not in Gambia. But when he came, he stood his ground to tell the president, rescind your decision, because I am the foreign minister. So these are things that we lack.
That was Dr. Sida Job, right?
Yes, exactly. So you have to rescind your decision or you take my resignation. But if Sida Job continued, then he condoned it. So this is where things get to sort of like a culture, because people who should stand and say no decide to say yes, and then it continued gradually, and it became a norm to the extent that you can dismiss somebody without no cause. Civil service were not able to protect anybody, including permanent secretaries. The police were not able to protect their own people.
Wow.
The armed forces were not able to protect anybody.
There was total disregard for the rules.
The rules and procedure, because more is more. In fact, it was more procedure that became a victim, but more procedure that became a victim, because there is no law that says you cannot dismiss anybody. There is no law that says you cannot dismiss. What the law says that if you want to dismiss me, which happened in my case, we'll come to that maybe later. There are procedures that you have to follow. But there are instances, for example, just after the 2016 election, when Masane Kinde became the CDS, he retired people illegally. I have letters to that effect when he usurped the power of the president.
Wow. So what implication do those kind of actions of the former CDS have on the Gambia Armed Forces? You cannot retire someone like that.
The implication is where we find ourselves today, because most of the people retired were people who were trained, trained at the expense of taxpayers. They are supposed to serve the country. I will mention names here because I know these people. I work with them. I have regard for them. I will give you Jiba, for example. Jiba is doing his PhD today. He's doing his PhD. These are people.
And he's a former member of the Gambia Armed Forces.
He was Major Jiba. Yes. I can name Kausu Sanyang. Kausu is one of the best instructors ever. He's now in the UK.
Wow. He was also forced to retire by the then.
For things that will not even require you to dismiss or retire a private soldier.
Buba, as a military lawyer and prosecutor, what is the baseline of retiring a senior military officer to the rank of a brigadier general or a colonel or a major?
No, you can. No, so at some point when you enter the senior officer corps or even officer corps, there's what we call serving at the pleasure of the commander-in-chief.
Yes, that is the president.
Yes, president. So the president can retire you, and that's okay. Just that he has to follow the due process in retiring. The problem is due process, and he can dismiss you, but also has to follow the due process. Retirement is easy, but dismissal is more difficult. Because as an officer, before you, especially senior officer, it has to be a conduct that is what they call it,
not in line with the military rules.
Disgraceful conduct. Conduct.
So can you put that into context when you say disgraceful conduct? What do you mean here for a military officer?
Corruption will be a disgraceful conduct. Corruption, because and that's not just military. That's security sector as a whole.
What about right violations?
Of course, yes, because you are supposed to protect rights. If you violate those rights, I mean, that's a disgraceful conduct. Because the security, we all know that we are supposed to protect life, property, and things like that. So we are the security sector is the watchdog of human rights. Let's say they are the ones who should protect human rights. So if they violate human rights, and because of what they have, the power they have, that's very serious, and it's gross misconduct. So that should not be acceptable. That's why we call ourselves, or you call it discipline force. Discipline is not is different from respect. But most of the time, when you say discipline, people think it's part of is respect. No, they are totally different. Right. Discipline is self-restraint. Self-restraint is discipline. If you see sometimes riots, you see civilians throwing stones at soldiers with weapons, but they don't do anything. We saw this famous video of a Kenyan lady, saying everything to a police officer or soldier, but he kept his cool. That is discipline.
Yeah. That is discipline, yes.
That's no respect.
Militaries are very disciplined force. If they follow the due process and also follow the rules of engagement. Yeah.
So coming back to your first question. So
yes,
in context, we know what we had under Sadauda.
Yes.
Okay. And 2016, we should be able to make a comparison between what just security sector under Sadauda and security sector under Jammeh. And yes, this should inform the way forward.
And this has not been done
This is where we missed it.
And right now, because of missing those steps, we are in this security challenges right now.
No,
right?
Exactly, because I mean, you list all what happened, and that's where we had so many attempted coups during Jammeh. It means that something is definitely wrong with the armed forces and security sector as a whole.
Yeah. On the Jammeh, we had almost 15 attempted coups that are even known to the people. But almost all these coups were fueled by forces loyal to former dictator Yahya Jammeh.
Yeah. I mean, of course, this is only this. You cannot coup. Nobody condone the coup. You know what I mean? But why do you have so many coups? It's been something wrong with the security sector.
So, Doctor, why do we have so many coups under former President Yahya Jammeh, and he survived all of them?
Well, I mean, when soldiers begin to think like politicians, or when they allow themselves to be manipulated, this is where the problem lies. If everybody has his own way. If I choose to be a lawyer, then whatever is in that profession, I will take it. Whether it's tough, whether it's okay, I am there for it. So if you choose to serve in the armed forces, that is your calling. You shouldn't even think about coup. That's your calling. And no amount of reason will give you. If the people who voted Jammeh in power wanted him out, they would have voted him out. That's what they did in 2016. Because he's a commander-in-chief. So the military and politics are two different things. If you want to serve as a politician, you can retire. Voluntary retirement and go into politics, but you cannot be in the military and behave like unprofessional soldier. So these are the challenges that we had, and why we had these challenges is because professionalism was replaced with something else, not professionalism. This was our problem, and when 2016 came and thereafter, these are things that we should take opportunity to ensure that we give the armed forces the professionalism that they lost.
But Dr. Bojang, this is why the government embarked on those reforms. They said, look, the military was highly politicized. The former president used the military at his own advantage. The military was involved in a lot of right violations. They said, look, we're going to do a security sector reform. 4 years since that reform, where are we right now? It seems that, nothing is been implemented as part of the security sector reform.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, that's why I said you compare the two regimes and you have to make a decision. You have to make an analysis and you have to make a decision. Do we want to go back to at least Jawara's era? But the aim should be giving the armed forces the best, even more than what used to happen during the time of Sadauda. But it requires a transformation, and it requires tough decisions. And this was said in TRRC by a former or retired RSM Jeng. He said that we have to take the bull by the horn.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, for me, I call it confronting the forces of destruction. Mm-hmm. And we should have an opportunity to give the armed forces a clean start. I personally contacted, I was not there then, but I contacted those I know in power, and my approach was, you have ECOMIG at the moment, so give yourself 3 years to transform the security sector. And I was the top decision was first retire all the generals, all of them. One, I can help you identify 10 young, vibrant,
officers,
well-educated, senior officers, and they can go for leadership training for 3 years. When they come back, tell ECOWAS, thank you very much. We can take care of our security. Those 10 people will transform the armed forces. And some of them are still in the system.
So did they head to your this advice?
No, of course. No. I became the victim myself.
Wow. Just because you wanted to advise, to make the army professional and accountable to the people, right?
So my case was out of my principle. I thank God that I think maybe because of my education and my experience, I developed a principle for myself.
Right.
And anything that is not within the principle, I am ready for it, including I don't care what happens afterwards, but I will stand on my ground. So when Masani became, in fact, to be honest with you, during when Barrow, His Excellency, went to Dakar.
Dakar, yes, I was right in Dakar.
So many people went to Dakar, including Masane. Masane left his duty station in Cuba. I'm not sure he got any permission. He went to Dakar. When I saw him on TV, I was a bit worried because I knew he wanted to come back as
he was first appointed a national security advisor to President Adama Barrow during that period.
Yes, but that was he was just marking time because he's gonna come back to the armed forces, and that was a mistake they did. They should not have allowed Martin to come. They should have given Baji time. Baji could have been there for 2 years or 3 years afterwards. And why I'm saying that is because, I served Masane, and let me say something here. I'm going to be very, very blunt here. When I refer to Masane Kinte and any other person that I'm going to call names, I'm not referring to them as somebody's uncle. They could be the best father, best husband, best uncle, best relative, best friend, best everything. But I'm referring to them as my former commanders, the people that I served. And I'm talking in their professional capacity, not in their capacity as family. No, I respect that. That's not. But in their capacity as my commanders, former commanders. These people I served as legal officers. I know them at work, not at home. So I'm not talking about them at home. I'm talking about them at work. So in the case of Masane Kinte, I can tell you that the mistake, and that's where the security sector reform went in the bush, was because he came back.
Wow. So you are saying that the Masane Kinte, the former CDS, was an obstacle to the security sector reform that the new government then rolled out to make the army professional and holding them to account?
Well, I mean, you know, if you are meant to be reformed yourself, you cannot be a catalyst for reform, because you should be reformed yourself first. Because security reform is not about writing policy papers. No, it's implementing those policy papers. It's beyond writing policy papers. Anybody can write anything, because you can copy anything from anywhere and put it down and say this is the policy. No, it's implementing that policy in realistic way, in our own way. Because security sector reform should be country specific. You should not, and that's why sometimes the SLRC, they went to Sierra Leone, they went to Liberia, and I say, for what? The context are totally different. These people went.
They go to those countries for study, to do study report, like for a study trip.
But these countries they had civil war. The whole armed forces were destroyed. Yes. We didn't have civil war. So if you bring that experience, how does it work? I saw the first draft of the concept paper. Are you talking about HIV/AIDS and I mean security sector reform? We don't need all those things. We can do it. We can, because it is only Gambians who knew what happened during Jammeh's regime. So it's only Gambia, and there are seasoned former military officers who you know, it was just easy to bring them together and ask them and tax them the responsibility of forming the security. They will do it.
So you want to say the failure of this security sector reform start from those who were choosing to lead it, because they themselves need to be reformed.
Exactly. That's why that's why, you know, the process is very important, and who leads the process. This is where we went wrong. So what I'm saying is that when it came to my case,
do we have opportunity to correct these wrongs right now, or it has already passed?
It's never too late, but we are too late in the game. But it's never too late. There's always an opportunity. I'm always very, very optimistic. I don't want to say all is lost. Not all is not lost. We still have an opportunity to. But as I said, it has to be very tough decisions. It cannot be just easy, because when you want to reform, when you want to develop, not everybody's gonna like it, because some people have to give way for development to come, and it requires some people just have to go home. But who's gonna take that tough decision? The responsibility is that of the government. They're in charge, so they should take the bull by the horn, as RSM Jan said, and reform the security. And so what happened was actually targeting people who are professionals, who could say no to you. Mm-hmm. So in my case, 2018, I write to voluntarily retire.
Well, my next question will be that you write to retire professionally from the army, and they refused. They wanted to dismiss you. You took up the matter at the High Court, and the court ruled in your favor that the way and manner the army wanted to dismiss you is unlawful and unconstitutional. Tell us about this.
Okay, so 2018, but there are so much to that, because I personally had many issues with Gambia Armed Forces since I was in Nigeria. In fact, before I went to Nigeria for the program, there's a history to this. Okay.
Yes. Bring it on.
So let's start from Nigeria. You know, in Nigeria, I completed my LLB, and then I went to law school. So at law school, I received a letter from the Ministry of Defense that I should come home. This was sent to the embassy, the High Commission in Nigeria. Then the ambassador was late Pajalo. May his own rest be very, very seasoned, another seasoned diplomat. So I was called to the embassy and was told that there is a letter from the Ministry of Defense that you should go back home.
Wow, back to Gambia.
Back to Gambia. I said, why?
This was in when? 2018, right?
No, this was in 2007.
Oh, this when Jammeh was in power.
Jammeh was in power. Okay?
Yeah.
And I told the High Commission, maybe you have to kill me and take my dead body. I'm not going anywhere. And I told him, you know what I'm doing here? He said, yes, I know, but it's your people. I said, yes, but they don't know. But you know what happened?
Yeah.
The President Jammeh, I had a lot of, still have a lot of respect for him, to be honest with you. Honestly. He was informed.
Before continuing, Buba, a lot of people are watching, and this is a very interesting conversation. In the beginning of the interview, you said you have a lot of respect for Jammeh. I'm curious, what kind of respect do you have for Jammeh? Because this is a guy who has total disregard for rule of law, who politicizes.
No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Okay, no, we all have an experience. My experience with Jammeh, I can't say 100% he has total disregard for rule of law. I cannot, because I don't have that. I don't have that experience.
No, but there are evidence all over the place, that Jammeh will come and promote people based on not competence, but because, he wants those people to be loyal to him.
I agree with that.
He employs a lot of his tribe men, to serve as his commanders.
No, so when it's come to promotion in the armed forces, it has a system, it has a procedure.
Yeah, but answer my question. Why do you still have so much respect for a man who committed?
I'm going. We reach there. Okay. As I said, my experience.
Yeah, your own personal experience. I agree.
Of course, there are issues. He's not a saint. There are issues that I blame him for many things as the commander in chief. Of course that. But my experience, my personal experience with him, with my advice, tough advice, including defying him, defying the president and commander in chief, staying the president commander in chief that I'm not going to consider court martial. I mean, as a military
that was a very tough decision, Buba.
Not only that, but let's come to that. But let me complete this Nigeria story.
Okay.
So Jammeh was informed that I ran away. Like, soldier, when you tell the commander in chief, the soldier, a wall is away without leave. That can be in two ways. Either I go without any permission, or I went and overstayed and there was a request for me to come back and I refused to come back. And in this case, it was that day I was asked to come back, but I refused to come back.
Why did you refuse to come back after President Jammeh called you to return home from Nigeria?
Because he was misinformed. Jammeh was told that I ran away.
And that was not the case.
That was not the case. And he went to National Assembly. He told the National Assembly that I ran away. This was in the National Assembly. State address, address by
State
the President.
State of the Nation address.
Exactly. He was talking about training, training retention and stuff like that. He said he was frustrated, even his soldiers are running away. He sent one to in Nigeria, he ran away. So what happened actually was that somebody was asked about my whereabouts, who knew what I was doing, and he decided to say he doesn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? So they stopped my allowance. They didn't pay my school fees. But of course, I knew the armed forces very well. So I was making savings.
Wow.
And that's the savings I used to pay my my tuition at the law school, which was, I still remember, it was 1,700 USD. I paid this from my savings. I paid it. So what the ambassador did at some point, I write letters. I put my admission, my ID card, everything. But it was intercepted. It never reached the commander in chief. Never. Yes. Okay.
Who intercepted this letter? Do you have a suspect, doctor?
We'll come to that. You will come to realize that Jammeh is not the only problem. There are so many issues. There are so many people in Gambia who are a problem. Not only Jammeh. And that is exactly what is happening under the current dispensation, unfortunately. So this ambassador, well-experienced person, he said, you know what, your letters don't reach him. Write to me as ambassador. Tell me why you are in Nigeria. And I will send it to the foreign minister, who will send it to State House. This is what I did. Jammeh received that information. He asked, he was very angry, I understand. And then he gave them 3 days to explain and asked them to pay all my dues. because he was misinformed. He was very angry. Okay?
Jammeh himself was angry why you later didn't reach him, right?
Yes. So he was angry that he was misinformed.
Mhm.
In fact, I did not run away, but I was in school. So he backdated it and asked them to pay all my allowance. But of course, some people are not happy and they decided to pay exactly what I paid in school. So I didn't have allowance that year. It was a very tough year for me, but I have to pay a price for being who I am. And I accept that. So that done, I came back. I served. And I tell you, if people can correct me, those who know better than me, I think I'm the only Gambian who served 3 institutions for 1 salary.
Wow.
Yes.
Tell us about that. How is that possible? Serving 3 different institutions and being paid with only 1 salary?
1 salary. Okay. Of course, this is because of my qualification. Okay. As I told you, I came back and I went to the Ministry of Justice. I was serving there as a state counsel. Then I went to
I remember when you were serving as a state counsel. I was a junior reporter for the Point newspaper, and I used to cross path with you at the High Court, prosecuting criminal cases for the Attorney General.
Yeah. So I studied international maritime law because this was a scholarship. And then when I came, Pahari was there. Then he was a Solicitor General, and Akibayo came to Pahari, and Pahari said, "Go." I was still prosecuting my cases. I went to Maritime Administration as a acting registrar and legal officer. And I set up the registry there because there was nothing. I set up the registry and Maritime Administration. But they were giving me allowance. They give me allowance and fuel coupon. And they give me condiments for breakfast. I really enjoyed my stay with them because it seems they value my professionalism than any other institution. But still, Gambia Armed Forces was my primary institution. So 3 institutions at the same time. And I don't think that has ever happened. And I don't think it's going to happen because the opportunity was just for me. I'm very proud of that. And I served my nation very well. And at Ministry of Justice, I serve on the many investigation panels. Okay? I'm going to tell you now why I say that I have respect for Jammeh. And I have no experience to say he is a tyrant. I have no evidence. Now, no experience. Okay?
No. Okay, you have no evidence, but the findings from the Truth Commission revealed that Jammeh was a brutal dictator who has a total disregard for rule of law, who highly politicized the military, and you said you still respect that person?
So after Jammeh, if Jammeh was this tyrant and dictator and total regard for military and promote everybody, what happened after Jammeh? Jammeh left in 2016, right? 2017.
17, after losing election to Barrow.
How many military officers were prematurely retired? Illegally. That was not by Jammeh. Who retired them?
Right.
How many were what is the case of this Salif Sadio, so-called Salif Sadio son? What is the case of Salif? Was it under Jammeh?
No.
How do you dismiss that person from the armed forces? Where is the evidence?
And currently, the court ruled in favor of the Sadio guy and said they should pay him an amount of money, and the military is refusing to comply with that.
So is that Jammeh?
That was not Jammeh. That was that's the current leadership.
I agree that Jammeh had so many issues. I agree 100%. I blame him for so many things that happened to Gambians. Yes, but I'll say this in Mandinka. Jammeh malu kumfalintete. Whatever comes from State House, somebody took it there.
So you want to say Jammeh was not the only problem. The problem of that country is people that surround Yaya Jammeh, right?
Yes. Unfortunately, and I said this many times, Jammeh was failed by people he trusted, including service chiefs. They failed him big time. His advisors failed him big time. Big time. So let me just conclude this aspect of mine. So 2018, of course, change of government. And what actually led to me writing to retire was because I believe my position as legal advisor was compromised. I could not effectively serve as legal advisor because they brought back people who were convicted for various crimes, including 2016 coup, attempted coup. This was actually why I said.
So these were people that were brought back to the military.
Exactly.
So do you think that those people who were given another opportunity to serve the military after being convicted of coup should not be in the military in the first place, Dr. Bojang?
Yes, and to tell you that it's very simple. You know, when the military advertised for recruitment, check any recruitment advertisement. One of the disqualifications, one of the things they tell you that you should not have a previous conviction.
But doctor, you look at the army then, those who, took up arms to change government feel that Jammeh was doing too much right violation and there was no freedom. So a lot of people think these people are even warriors or they are patriots, because they take arm against Jammeh because everybody wanted change then.
And then you accuse Jammeh of taking up against Sadauda. Who are you?
No, I'm just telling you.
No, I mean those people. What happened in TRC? We said coup was not acceptable.
Yeah, it's unconstitutional. Yes.
Anywhere, anytime, coup is not acceptable. It's unconstitutional. So how do you put these same people in two categories? This one is a hero.
So you want to say that bringing in those people and promoting them to high command in the armed forces is also a contributing factor to the scaling of the security sector reform?
I mean, why do we want to reform security sector? To make them professionals, right? That's to make them professionals. So how do you explain this? How do you explain this? You want a system that is professional. You yourself, your own conduct is compromising that system.
I think this is a very difficult, that's why in our earlier conversation you said anyone who's supposed to embark on this reform must be able to take tough decisions that will not go well with everyone.
Of course, and that's why people are leaders. That's why people are. Leadership is not about enjoyment. If you think you are only there to enjoy, you are not being honest. Leadership is about tough decisions. You have to take that because it's your responsibility. Nobody going to do that for you. But if you compromise that,
do you think that the current military leadership is compromised to achieve the security sector reform?
We have a serious
because these
problem.
are the same.
So let me be very clear on this one. Okay, there are very good officers, seasoned officers in the Gambian force at the moment. Okay, our problem in the Gambian forces and security as a whole is moving these very good officers from operational level to strategic level. That's where we miss. You have to move an officer from professional, operational to strategic. That's where he assumes leadership position. Leadership is not in operational. Leadership is in strategic. But unfortunately, where is strategic and leadership taught? Not in command and command colleges. It's taught at war college. How many of these generals has gone to war college? This is where strategic is taught. This is where leadership is taught, and that's why I said that to give the professional opportunity to them, to give the Gambian forces that professional standing, is first to identify these young professionals and send them for leadership training. Our problem is not that they are not professionals. Our problem is how do you manage these professionals you have? That's from leadership. Leaders, that's why leaders are important.
So the armed forces lack that leadership leadership
competence to manage these professionals. It's like I have everything here, I don't even know what to do with it. Does it make sense? I don't even know what I have. But if you are a leader, I mean, you should be able to manage what you have. And that is why I said that leadership was destroyed. And that's why you have a lot of dismissals and retirement. And even the smallest things you want to dismiss an army, soldiers by nature are stubborn. We all have our strength and weaknesses. Leaders come to manage you. I'll give you an example of this is an interesting example. This was during Jammeh's time, in fact. There are the late Vincent Jatta is one of the best we ever had. I mean, he's so rest in peace. This man has a lot of regard for me. He respected me so much, and then and sometimes he will take me when I was going to GDTI, and in his vehicle, he was a captain, I was a private soldier, but we discussed as if we were mates. And then there was a time that retired Colonel Samson Sar resident, before he occupied the residence, soldiers go there to guard, So one evening he came there, he found them doing some messy stuff, I'm not going to name this name, but soldiers are soldiers. And then he called the commander, Vincent, and gave orders that they should be dismissed. But Jatta did not dismiss them because it was unfair for him to do that, because Gambia Armed Forces is going to lose a very seasoned senior NCOs. He knows their word because he's their direct commander. The person giving the orders was from the headquarters. He has no idea the word of these people to the army. And this is where we have problem. Many people were dismissed because if the commanders were given opportunity to decide, they would have not dismissed them. And this is what I try to do, to empower the military commanders to punish at their level. I have done that in many of my legal opinions. I refer those soldiers to the commanders to punish them. I have never constituted a court martial. Never. Maybe you got that fact wrong. I've never, because I did not believe that we are.
Buba, you were tasked to constitute a court martial to try those officers accused of attempt to overthrow ex-president Jammeh. But I understand you wrote a report back to Jammeh and refusing to constitute that court martial.
No. So no, it's not about overthrowing the government. It's some accusations of theft and some misconduct, which never happened in the first place. But I tell you that one of the issues that destroyed us was and I'll call it jealousy. Jealous of one another's achievements, and so this was actually a big problem in the armed forces. Rivalry was a big problem. What brought us together as soldiers, the esprit de corps, was destroyed. We don't trust one another again. These are 5 young soldiers who were guarding the cooks of the president, the resident. And those cooks wanted to change the residents. And the only way they can change the residents is to complain or to accuse others of theft, so that they create an atmosphere of insecurity around the residents, and therefore they can change to a better residence. Okay? They accused these 5 soldiers, so very young 5 soldiers, and they were all arrested. And the police investigated. And when the police investigated, they sent the report straight to State House. Jammeh, His Excellency, ordered that we consider a court martial to try them. Masane Kinte came with that order. He called me to his office and said, "Go and consider court martial." And I told him, "No, I'm the legal officer. You cannot tell me this. I will advise you. Tell me what you want, and I will tell you whether it's possible or not and how you can do it."
That was a bold stand from you, challenging your CDS.
But I'm the legal officer. This is about law. This is about.
Yeah. But in that situation, who dare challenge a command? In those days in Gambia. That's why I said that was a bold.
For me, it was my calling. I told you, when if you are a coward, don't read law, because you are going to be a liability. Don't read law, because defending human rights is not the business of a coward.
Cowards. I agree with you, Doctor.
So I said, well, first, I did not write an opinion on this dismissal, on this offense or this case file. I said, give me time. But first I said, but why is the investigation not conducted by military police or intelligence? Why is police investigating this case? I am not a police officer. I'm not going to write a report, opinion on police report. I'm not a police officer. But if the police want me to write, let them send the report to Ministry of Justice. I will take that file and write opinion on it. And I asked military police. They said, yeah, they investigated. Sorry, where is the investigation? It was suppressed. So I got that investigation from military police and from intelligence, and I wrote my opinion. And I came to conclusion that they've not committed this offense, and they should be released. And this was on Wednesday, and he boldly told me that I'm going to submit this to the president, but the rest also that you'll be arrested.
Wow, who said this to you?
Masane.
Wow.
And I remember I told him, I said, I'm going to tell you something, because I saw him as my brother. When he became serious, I saw him as my boss. So and I told him that, look, I want you to succeed, and therefore I will tell you the truth. Because for me, loyalty means truthfulness. That's what I describe loyalty. You have to be truthful to your commander if you are loyal to him. Don't deceive your commander. Don't lie to your commander. And I said, as a legal officer, I am responsible for my advice. So take it to the president. He took this advice to the president. Friday morning, the president said, release them, I agree with the legal officer.
The president himself said that?
Yes. Executive directives came, and I always tell them, executive directives can never be a law. Can never be a law. It's not a law. Can never be a law. And that's why
this is one of the executive directives, Buba, who was then a legal officer, challenged.
I did not challenge it. I just said it's
no, you gave your honest opinion on the matter, that these people should not be tried.
Yeah, and they were released. They went to their families.
Wow.
They went to their families. But that's the smaller aspect of the tough one was there was a person who was accused of military coup. He spent 7 months in police detention.
Wow.
7 months. In fact, for that accusation, a whole contingent went to Nyomi to comb that whole area, because the accusation was that he brought in white mercenaries to overthrow the government of Jammeh.
Is this Nduru Cham's coup?
No. Nduru Cham was not in Gambia. He spent
Whose
7
coup was this?
No, it was a fake one. There was no coup at the influence point.
It was a false alert.
False information was a false information, but everybody believed in it. So when the police finished the investigation, they sent the case file to Ministry of Justice. I was asked, because some of these stuff for security case file, they always say, but then I was a Lieutenant Bojang, this is your case. So I took the case file and wrote opinion. When I was finished opinion, I knew that if I had sent the opinion to the normal channel, it wouldn't go. I was very stubborn too, I can do things that sometimes are questionable.
And those are risky decisions, Major Lieutenant.
Yeah, because I know my system. I know my system, so I behave in accordance with that system. Because if I don't believe in a case, and I know that if I leave this case, somebody else is going to take this case, and an innocent person is going to prison. Look, I had the opportunity to stay in Mile 2, not as a prisoner, but when I was a student. And I know, I have an idea of how that place looks like.
Yeah.
So to send an innocent person to Mile 2, even for 1 hour, I swear to God, if you do it, you'll pay a price. And you may not only pay a price, but your family may pay a price. So this was something that always in the back of my mind. I will not do it. I wrote my opinion, and instead of sending my opinion to DPP, I sent it straight to police. Jesus Esabaj, he had a lot of regard
Was
for
the
me.
IGP then?
Was the IGP, and Sonko, my very good brother, seasoned police officer, was the CMC.
A crime management coordinator.
Yes, they received this opinion, and this was, I understand he's late, right?
Yeah, he passed away a month ago. May his soul rest in peace.
He called me direct. He used to call me Bob. He doesn't call me by my name. He said, Bob, how can you write this type of opinion? You are a security officer. You know the implications involved in this. I say, yes, it's my name there. So that's my opinion. It's an opinion, but if you want, give it to any other lawyer to write an opinion about it. But for me, I am saying that this man did not do anything. But I also recommended that they arrest the person who gave the information. So,
for them, you recommended that in your report.
Yes, for them to act on the report, they had to take it to the State House, to Jammeh. And when they were going to take this report to Jammeh, they called me, and they were concerned that, look, we are going to take this report to State House. So you better go towards a border, so that if he asks that you be arrested, you just go into Senegal. I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. This is my opinion. They took the report to Jammeh. And later on, they told me that Jammeh told them that, what do you want me to do? The lawyer advised, and you are coming to me, am I a lawyer? What do you want me to do? Take the law side, but if you don't believe in him, I can advise you what to do. And then he advised them that arrest this person, prosecute him, release this other one, but put a cordon around him. And then the truth will come to light. And that's exactly what happened. The person they were prosecuting ran away. So these are some of the issues, the things that I have done when I was a Minister of Justice. I'll give another example. Lawyer Dabo is a witness to this.
The opposition leader of the UDP?
Yes, he's a witness to this case. There was a case that was a rape case that was prosecuted by the police. The police were not diligent in prosecution, and the magistrate decided to discharge the person for want of prosecution. And as soon as this guy was, he was represented by lawyer Antoine Gay, the accused person. Of course, you take the accused person, the police take him back to mile 2, that's where I'm coming from. Somebody has to go to mile 2 and receive him, right? So Antoine Gay's clerk, a lady, went to mile 2 to bring this person. And he deposited his ID. So the moment this person got out, he was taken out of the country. So the families wrote a letter to the president saying exactly what happened. And the president was so angry that he wrote a letter, a non-executive directive, to the Ministry of Justice and said, if the lawyer, because the police told him that he was MOJ prosecuting, well, he was not MOJ, it was the police prosecuting. So this is another non-professionalism on the part of the police. They told the president that he was the Minister of Justice, the lawyer was prosecuting it. And then he said in his executive directive that if the lawyer is a non-Gambian, he has 24 hours to leave the country. And if he's a Gambian, he should be arrested and taken to mile 2. These are his orders. These were his orders. And then this lady, innocent lady, was arrested and taken to court. I don't know for what. So I was involved because lawyer Dabo filed bail application
for the suspect.
For the lady, not the suspect, because he didn't do anything. She only went to receive this person from mile 2.
From mile 2.
You see what I mean? So he filed application. It came afternoon. Sometimes these things can be very hot. Afternoon. And then DPP Chenge called me, Major Bojang, go to court. I say, okay. I looked at the whole thing. No charge sheet, nothing, absolutely, just a bail application. I knew what I was going to do. So say go and oppose bail. I agreed. I said no problem. I agreed everything. I went to court, and lawyer Dabo, got up, make his application, and then I was asked to respond, and I said I have no response. I agreed. In short, just to say I agreed, and then he himself asked the court to stood down. Lawyer Dabo, he got me out of the court and told me, Bojang, this is a very serious case. I'm telling you something. He said, this is a very serious case. This is not safe for you. Your life can be in danger. This is not safe. Let's see how best we can. I said, I'm not changing my position for anything. I said, I'm a lawyer. I'm the lawyer here. My freedom is not better than this lady's freedom. If I'm going to Mile 2, fine, I'm ready to go to Mile 2, but not this lady. He hasn't done anything. The lady was released. I came back to office. that was the beginning of another problem. But nothing happened to me. Nothing happened to me.
You taking a lot of brave decisions, very strong decisions, and
because I believe in the rule of law, Seni. I'm ready to fight for the rule of law. I'm ready to fight for human rights. That's why I'm a lawyer. And I told you, if you're fighting for human rights, if you're a coward, leave it. It's not for cowards.
Cowards. I got that. Look, we started a discussion. We didn't finish. Buba, in 2018, you were dismissed from the armed forces. And you didn't take it lightly. You went to the High Court to challenge your dismissal. And you won that case. They said you should retire honorably from the army and you are paid all your allowances and salaries that the army owe to you. Tell us about this case.
Okay. So when I was doing my PhD in Scotland, as usual, in fact, let me tell you another part of my CV, Jammeh. I got this PhD scholarship, studentship, and of course, as a senior officer, I cannot leave the country without his permission. He permits any senior officer who leaves the country. You know?
At which rank does the president permit a senior officer to leave a country?
I think every officer, if you are going anywhere outside the country, you write a permission to Minister of Defense and he approves it. But mostly, if you enter the senior officer corps, which is from the rank of major.
Okay.
I was a major then.
Okay.
So of course I wrote, but before I got the response, Jammeh appointed me as the first director of Financial Intelligence Unit. I was appointed
under the army or under the central bank.
Central bank, under central bank. Okay, and approved my application to go on studies for PhD. Not only did he approve that, but he approved it with everything that I applied for, because I asked for allowance, and he approved it as well. So I was confused. You appointed me and you to be the first director of the FIU, but you approved me to go outside. And I had a meeting, and I was a bit confused, and I spoke to one of the persons that are very close to Jammeh, and then everybody was scared. Then he said, "Don't come here, let's meet somewhere." So he told me where we met, and I told him. He said, "Look, this man knows exactly who you are. He's just testing you. He's just looking at you. What are you gonna do?" But I was very smart also in taking this decision, because I did not want to take that FIU position, because I knew that there was a lot of money laundering going on, and central bank was in the center of it.
So meaning the central bank of the Gambia was involved in money laundering at the time.
Of course, because if somebody can come with a note and said, His Excellency says you give me a bag of money.
Okay. Do you think that these notes are from President Jammeh, or they are just people who use his name to make those withdrawals? Let that be clear.
The two are possible, and I will tell you why they are possible.
Sol Baji has been involved in that.
I can't say 400% that that's the case, but there's a highly likely that is possible, and I will tell you why. You were going in the story, but you remind me, and I'll tell you that aspect of it, because it's very important. And I will mention that because I have a lot of also regard for the president, the current president, because he's the commander in chief. And even though I'm not in the army, but I'm still under some sort of military rule. I know military law. I know that one very well, and therefore he's my commander in chief. And that's why I'm saying I'm not going to talk about politics, because I should not talk about politics. Even though if I want to do that, I'm going to politics directly, but I can't hide behind anything to talk about politics. So the reason why I didn't take this appointment was because I knew money laundering, because I was in I was working closely with Jammeh. That's the
regional intergovernmental money laundering bureau.
I did a training in money laundering. I was an assessor. I assess countries' compliance. I assess Sierra Leone, assess Mali. You know, I assess these two countries' compliance. I was a trained assessor when it comes to money laundering. So I know how money laundering is done in the country, and it was very much there, including central bank. And I was also worried about my independence, because if central bank, if I was going to house in central bank, then my independence would be compromised. But I played my game. I had a meeting with them. I was going to do bilateral for my budget. You know, they started with 1 million. They gave me 25,000 as a salary, a brand new car. You know, fell coupon I think was 10,000 or something like that. But I knew I wasn't going to take that position. So what I told them was I was going to go to UK, have 3 months, and then I come back. But of course, I did not come back. Okay, they wrote to me and I said, well, the supervisor said if I leave, I will lose my scholarship. So I didn't come back. But I did not decline the appointment. I only told them I want to defer the appointment. Of course, they will not vote for me. So that
was the appointment at the central bank, right?
Central bank, yes. So in Aberdeen, I was doing my studies. I think second year of studies, they cut my allowance completely. They stopped paying my allowance.
Allowance?
The Gambian forces, they cut my allowance.
The current leadership, or under which CDS then?
Under who was the CDS then?
Masane Kinte or Jammeh?
No, Masane Kinte. Jammeh came just after Masane Kinte. It was Masane Kinte. Yeah? No, it wasn't Masane Kinte. This was under Baji. Usman Baji.
Oh, Osman Baji. Okay. During the heyday of the transition, right?
Let me see. Was it under...
Tell me the date, the year, and then I will tell you who the...
This was in 2014. 2014.
Oh, that must be a different CDS under Jammeh.
Yeah, I think it's Baji. I think it's Usman Baji. Yeah. Usman Baji, because I remember I went for a conference in South Africa paid by the US Coast Guard. Yeah. It was Baji. He approved that. He asked me to go.
Okay, go ahead.
So they got the scholarship, and I write many letters. At some point, I say, enough is enough. Let me struggle on my own. So 2018, I graduated. And then, because I had 2 extensions of that, because I had to work part-time to pay my bills. And then
in 2018, you graduated with what? A doctorate in philosophy?
Yes. In law? Doctor in international law.
Okay. PhD.
Yeah. PhD in international law. So I graduated, and I went to Gambia. And then before I went to Gambia, I decided that I would retire because all these things happened. So I went with my letter, and personally, I sent the letter to the system, but I went to see Masane Kinte personally.
Then Masane was the CDS.
Yes, because that was his second coming, you know. And I explained to him that I am retiring. I didn't tell him why I was retiring, but in my letter to the commander-in-chief, because the commander-in-chief is the only one who can accept or reject my retirement, not Masane Kinte. He cannot deal with that application. So I was a senior officer. Okay, it was for him to write a covering letter and send to defense, and to state up for president to say yes or no. But I am scared that the president will say no because I attach my CV.
Wow, yeah, because you have a very rich CV.
And I told the president in the letter that I don't want to serve in the armed forces, but look at my CV, take me anywhere. I'm ready to even go back to the Minister of Justice.
Wow.
I'm ready to go back. I can go back to the Maritime administration. This is so I had discussion with Masane Kinte. He told me, no, it's okay. I mean, we will pay all your dues. I make sure that all the dues are paid. Then I left. 83 days. He did not send my application or request for whether right to the State House. Instead, he wrote to me and said that I cannot process your request because you were dismissed.
Wow.
How was I dismissed? How was I dismissed? There was this head check that the civil service did. They had head check of security aspects. And they said that they came to armed forces and they could not account for me. And therefore, I was my name was in the name of people that they dismissed. I said, okay, that's fine, but where's my dismissal letter? And I said, well, civil service cannot dismiss me. They did not hire me. They cannot even dismiss a private soldier. And they use regulation 57. If you go check regulation 57 of the civil service regulations, it talks about defense, civilian staff of Ministry of Defense. I am under the Gambia Armed Forces Act and regulations. And you're talking about a civil service regulation in face of an act of National Assembly. You must be kidding. And I said, okay, fine, but where's my dismissal letter? Nowhere to be seen. I wrote to the State House. Of course, I'm sure they hijacked it, was intercepted, nothing came. I wrote to the National Assembly, nothing came. I wrote a letter that distributed to everybody that mattered, including the Ombudsman. Nobody responded to my letter. Nobody. I had a lawyer, and then we wrote, and they wrote back to say I was dismissed, and this, that. You know, I said, well, one thing I don't want is for somebody tomorrow to tell my kids that your father is a useless lawyer because he was dismissed illegally and he couldn't do anything about it. I said, it will not happen. No. Then I took a lawyer, very grateful to the lady who was my lawyer. I mean, Anycham stood with me. And then when the current AG became aware of this case, he called me and told me that, but why didn't you inform me? It has been this, because this has been dragged since 2018. Why didn't you inform me? I said, well, I'm tired of informing people. I just want to take the due process of the law. So, and he wrote, the AG wrote to the Minister of Armed Forces to explain the circumstances of my dismissal and provide evidence. They could not. And AG said, well, I will not embarrass myself. I'm not going to court. So we agreed on consent terms of judgment. And I said, under these consent terms, I'm not going to ask for all the money. I just ask for something small, but I want my rights to be restored. So the court adopted that and gave a judgment. But it took me forever until the beginning of this year that all my dues were paid. So this is the issue. And when Masani Kinte left, then the court process did not start. I went to Yankuba Jammeh. I called him. I said, this is the problem. And I don't want to go to court because I have regard for you. So can you resolve this problem? He told me, that, okay, give me time. I'm going to the Public Service Commission. He went to the Public Service Commission. He came back and called me and said, well, they said they were dismissed. You were dismissed. I said, that's not what I asked him. And I was very angry with him. I said, well, I'm disappointed because you are the chief of staff, chief of defense staff. And therefore, you should stand for your men. If you cannot stand for your men, then it's unfortunate. Then I took the matter to court and I got judgment in my favor. So nobody can tell me that.
And they retire you.
To dismiss somebody who has served 20 years of service is cruel. It's cruel.
Yeah.
And so many
people
have suffered this.
Interesting conversation, Dr. Buba Bojang. For those watching, this is the big interview with me, Seni MK Marina, live from our virtual studios. With me here is retired Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Buba Bojang. Buba, let's shift our attention to the ECOMIG. You know, in 2027, when former President Jammeh refused to step down, he was threatened with a military intervention by ECOWAS. You know, then the ECOWAS stabilization force came into the country. It's 8 years since they have been here. Do you think that the country still need the ECOWAS mission in the country? Do you and do you also believe that the Gambia Armed Forces is, you know, the Gambia Armed Forces is in a good state to provide the country with the much needed security?
Yeah, this is another very tough question for me to provide definite answer. But
your opinion, opinion.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So you know, we started with security sector reform, including reform of the armed forces, right? To be professional. And if we believe that has not been achieved, then it means that we still need ECOMIG. because it still means that we still have the security force that was there before. But that's one thing. On the other hand, we had every opportunity to tell ECOWAS, Jarama, thank you very much. We can do it. And I have no doubt that we can do it.
You have hope in the current armed forces?
As I said, our problem is leadership. But we have competent men to do what it takes to save our country, to protect the territorial integrity of the country, to protect its independence and sovereignty. We have men that can do it, no matter what. Okay? Our problem is leadership. As I said, how do you manage these men? Including making sure that their need is taken care of. The military has been neglected. You go to the barracks, if I want to die for you, I will see you in me. You have to realize me first. The soldiers are doing what I call selfless service, capital service. They could have died any time for serving your country. It should be our priority to make sure that they live in the most comfortable environment. Because that is where you get loyalty. That's where they can die for you. But if not, they will dare to receive salary and go to work and come back like any other person. And when you need them, I doubt if they will be there. Because I've seen where soldiers got sick and went to the hospital, they could not even get treatment and they died. I cried. How come a country cannot do that for its soldiers? How? We went to the army to serve the country. There's nothing in the army. There's no money in the army. But at least give us something that will make us happy. To serve, to know that, yes, I'm going home to this environment. This is the opposite. And that is because, that's because the army is oversized. We have to, and another aspect of this security sector reform being compromised. You did not reform the security, you are recruiting people. How do you reform security? Hold on to recruitment until you reform security, then you will know what you did. But
so what you are saying that security sector reform involves downsizing instead of recruiting more.
That is when you do a realistic analysis. Because what needs to be done after, because when you do all this analysis, there has to be the legal basis, the legal backing of this. And after that, you have to have a doctrine. The doctrine will identify two key important issues: threats and interests. Yes, and the interest will tell you, do we need the security forces? All of this. It's very simple. It's just like you went to high school. You had a cut of mark before you were expected. Many people choose that school you went to, Seni. But not everybody got in because the school determined that they cannot take everybody. That's why the cut of mark had to go high. Because they don't have space. They don't have all the teachers. Every classroom has a size. Every teacher has a number of students attached to it. You cannot have a teacher with 100 students. It's not going to work. Whatever you want to achieve, you cannot achieve it. This is the problem we have. We don't need...
Coming to my question, do you think that it's time for ECOMIG to leave the country and hand over the security to our men in uniform?
Well, I know for certain that the pride of every soldier is to be responsible for the security of his country. That's the pride of every soldier. And I want ECOWAS to actually look at this very well. But also for the government to look at this very well. You know why? Because ECOMIG is constituted by contingent from different countries. Okay? Those countries, for one reason or the other, if they have security challenges, they have every right to withdraw their contingent. Let's make hay while the sun shines. Right. We don't have all this time to wait. Ghana can wake up one morning with a huge security threat to the country and decide to withdraw their forces. Senegal can do it. Nigeria can do it. What happened? Are we ready? No. But now the troops that are not ready are now asked to do the work that they were never prepared to do. So we don't have all the time. That's why security sector reforms should be giving the most, I don't even know how to place it. It's a very serious issue. It's a very serious issue. We cannot continue to. ECOWAS is having problems in the region. They lost 3 member states. Senegal could have been the 4th one because of the way they handled the problem with Maki and we have to be very careful. We don't have all the time. The experience was this confederation. Confederation, which broke in 1989. He woke up one morning and the Senegalese troops said they are not taking the president because they gave orders from Senegal not to do it. What happened? We had to go to Nigeria to bring them. And that's what led to the 1994 coup. One of the reasons they gave was because they don't want foreign troops to man them. ECOWAS was very important that they came in. It was important that they had to come in. But ECOWAS, for me, is giving us an opportunity to take care of our own security. And we don't know when some of the countries will pull their forces because every country has a security challenge. And when it's come to me and you, I will take me. I don't care what happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know how long they're going to stay. They may decide to say, hey, Gambia, come on, it's enough, man. Take control of it. Are we ready? Has security reform been completed?
As a former senior officer, are we ready for our own security after the removal of the ECOWAS from the country?
I think we can do it, but we have to do certain things to get this right. We have to reform the security. No, let's not joke about it.
Okay, Buba, if we are called by President Barrow right now after this show for you to take lead in restructuring and spearheading the security sector reform, will you pick up this job? Because you are highly experienced and it seems you know the inner working of the Gambia Armed Forces.
National duty is very important, but when you serve in an institution, you are there already. All you need to do is plan for exit. I believe in exit at a time when you are needed most. So I will provide every advice that they need, but I may not come back to lead it.
Why?
Because I've already left. You see, everything has.
But there are people who left and they come back.
Yes, because that's what they want. For me, it's against my principle. I believe in the time for everything. I believe in God a lot, and I believe in the fact that I have put off principles which I will not negate from. So I have moved on. I have served my country for 22 years. I've served my country for 20 years. For me, it's time to leave. And when I leave, and I'm gonna tell you this. Dr.
Bojang, this is a time when our country needs the right people at the right places to drive this reform agenda.
I am telling you, there are people who are even more competent than me to lead this process. It's just that they are not given the opportunity. There are so many retired, very competent, seasoned, all over the world. In Gambia, some of them are professors. Giving up. Look, let me tell you one thing. I have this very good friend of mine. He was a former ADC to Sadauda. He was one of the people who could, and he came to serve. But as I said, there are people who hijack the process, and it will not be in their interest to have the complaint people. And not forgetting, do you know ECOWAS fielded retired office generals to come and help in the security sector reform? They stayed in Gambia for I think 2 or 3 years. They left because they were sidelined. Nobody heard about
Wow.
them. The reason why they came from ECOWAS is to help us in the reform process.
But they were sidelined by the leadership by
Nobody
then.
spoke to them. They had offices. At some point, I think Gano was attached to that office. Retired Colonel Gano was retired to the office. Retired Salif Bojang was attached to that office. And I even forgot to mention the case of Salif. You know, how can you retire Salif under circumstances that are completely frivolous? Somebody who has served all his life in the military, rank of colonel. This is the guy who, did not only recognize Barrow at the tough time, but he came from Farafenni. He was a commander in Farafenni. He came to Banjul to tell Barrow that the armed forces was behind him. He did not only do that, but he went to the barracks to the commanders.
He was the first military commander on the ground to do that. Yes.
But what happened to Salif at the end of the day?
He was forced to retire.
Why? Because he defended the right of the president. This is unbelievable. In that forum, in that meeting, there was the Minister of Defense who could have just solved this problem. As I said, in the army you have every type of person, but you should know the strength and weaknesses of what you have. Salif shouldn't have gone. They shouldn't have retired him.
That was a mistake on the part of the armed forces.
Yes.
Or it was a deliberate action.
It was a deliberate. It was no other than the former CDS, Jammeh, because he was Jammeh. If you look at Salif's track record in the military, how can you retire him for things like saying this power is the president's power and only that?
Wow. Interesting. Anyway, Dr. Bojang, we are almost at the tail end of this, interesting interview. A lot of people are watching, and then we can, talk for many, many hours, without finishing all the security challenges in the country. But finally, let me just ask you this question. You are also a maritime lawyer. You deal with a lot of maritime issues. Tell us about the maritime governance of the Gambia. How is the maritime governance issues in the Gambia as a maritime lawyer? Water resources governance.
So maritime, I'm now more of a fisheries lawyer.
Oh,
National fisheries law. That's what my work is. I travel to many countries to help those countries develop their national legislation to protect fisheries and to fight against illegal fishing.
Yeah, that's happening a lot in the Gambia.
Well, we have. I don't like to say potentials, because how long can we be talking about potentials? We cannot be continue talking about we have potential. No, we want to realize these potentials now, not talk about potentials. Okay, we are not very much a maritime nation because we don't have a lot of vessels on our flag. But when it's come to the law of the sea, the space we have, if you look at our position in Senegal, within Senegal and the coast, the opposite coast is Cabo Verde. We are sandwiched by Senegal on two sides, and the opposite is Cabo Verde. So our space is not as big as others because of the nature of the size of the country. So that's also challenging. But I don't think we have harnessed or taking advantage of what we have in the sea.
Wow.
And I'll talk about fisheries, for example. I mean, the size of the population and what we have and what we can gain from fisheries, it's something that is underdeveloped. It's very underdeveloped. We can develop a lot from Maritime, and even a continental shelf aspect, oil and gas. We can develop a lot in oil and gas. But as I said, this reform, when you talk about reform, the only you think it's only security. No, the civil service has to be reformed. Judiciary has to be reformed. We have to reform our attitude. You see, this, until we do this, whatever you put in place may not work. But don't forget civil service. We have to reform the civil service. I am telling you this example, this last example of whether Jammeh was the one giving all those notes for them to go and withdraw money from State House, or from Standard Bank. My experience was that people were dismissed in the civil service, in the military, purportedly by Jammeh when he did not do it. How? So when Jammeh said these people have committed this, I'm going to dismiss them. He does not write the dismissal letters.
It's normally the PMO.
Yeah, but he gives the names. So he would write the names on a piece of paper and give it to somebody else to take it to either PMO for civil service or to defense for the military. And do you know what happens? People take advantage of that and add names on that list. I have a classical case of one staff sergeant. He became 002, Mod Fal Jammeh. I'm going to name him. He's a good brother. He's a good brother. And I know him even before I joined the armed forces. Mod Fal is Mod Fal Jammeh. That's his full name. You don't dismiss a soldier without his regimental number in the dismissal letter. Modufal brought his dismissal letter to me when I was at Maritime administration. I look at the dismissal and I say, this is not possible. You are not dismissed. Yes, he was not dismissed. But he got a dismissal letter, purportedly by the president.
But without a regimental number on it.
Yes. And they spell his name Molifa Jammeh. Molifa Jammeh. So what happened actually was that somebody inserted his name in that list. So if Jammeh said 5, he wrote 6. And this is not just the military. It happened to civil service. People were dismissed without Jammeh's knowledge because their names were added to the list. This is not by Jammeh. This is by Gambians working closely with Jammeh. There are 2 key positions that are very important. And I think those people need to take it very seriously. Chief of Protocol and Secretary General, these are very key important offices. If they don't want any letter to reach the president, it will never reach him. If they don't want you to see the president, no matter whatever you have, you don't. So some people hijack these positions. If a businessman comes, for example, and want to invest in a sector, and some people are investing in that sector, they don't like it, he will not see the president. They make sure he doesn't see him. If you write a letter to the president, he will not see it. I wrote letters advising the president, especially in the case of Ansumana Tamba, when he was arrested, and he was going to be court-martialed, said there is no case. But he did not write a letter. I advised, but the court vindicated me. There was no case. And not only that, there are so many other issues.
This brings me back to the question of 2 weeks ago, a top official, a former army commander, Bora Colley, who is accused of committing a lot of human rights violation. He turned himself to the military after he came back to the Gambia after 8 years in exile in Guinea-Bissau. Do you think that what implication is the coming of Bora will have on the military? And do you think that he is definitely going to be court-martialed or taken to the court?
Well, court-martial depends on whether Bora is still in the army, because you see, this is the problem sometimes they have, and that was the problem with the case of Ansumana Tamba, because when Ansumana Tamba came, they dismissed him and ticket him. So when you dismiss him, you cannot bring him back to court-martial because the court has no jurisdiction over him.
Yeah, because that's a military court.
Depends on whether he was dismissed or not. If he was dismissed before this time, then that's it. But he can, of course, he can be, if you have evidence that he committed other crimes, then of course he can be court-martial. But I don't think it's a big issue as people think. It's a big security threat. And I believe, I may be wrong, that Bora Colley has been in the country for a while.
Yeah, someone told me about that he has been coming and going, and finally he surrendered.
And then he was advised. I'm sure he was advised to turn himself in.
Yeah, because
And
Sol
this
Bani
is
gave
because,
up
again,
order
I say we have to reform the security sector.
Okay.
Not just
Anyway, we are running. We are almost at the end of this program. It's like 1 hour 40 minutes discussing key security issues in the country with no other person than retired Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Buba Bojang. Buba, thank you very much. But before I let you go, in 1 minute, what's your take on the regazetted draft constitution? Because it also have some security implication, because when we were doing the draft, we consulted the armed forces to hear from them. We reviewed the Armed Forces Act, and then also look at the promotion of the of senior military officer. What's your take on the draft constitution? Finally, before I let you go.
That's more on the side of the law, and I'm not a constitutional law expert, but my training as a lawyer means you can say something about everything as a lawyer.
Yeah.
Now I didn't go into the details of the constitution actually, because I didn't have time.
Okay.
I was busy. I was traveling. I don't have time to look at it. But my concern is the process.
Yeah.
My concern is the process. You see, I think we got the process wrong. We got the process
The reintroduction or the main process?
From the main process to the introduction, we got it wrong. You know why? The Constitutional Review Commission was okay. But when they use Section 2, Article 226 as the basis for review, was not the proper section. Read it again. The heading is amendment of what? This constitution.
1997 constitution.
Yes, because the people did not give National Assembly power to make a constitution. The people of the Gambia gave National Assembly power to amend certain limited powers to amend certain aspects of the constitution without referendum.
And that happened.
So in our case, the question I ask is, are we making a new constitution or amending a constitution?
No, perhaps the CRC Act 2017, the act empowered the Constitutional Review Commission to draft a new constitution to replace the existing 1997 constitution.
Yes, so it is to repeal and replace. So in that case, 1997 constitution does not have anything to do with this one. You cannot use Section 226 for this one. It's not possible. And there is no law that says how a constitution is made. It's from constitutional making practice.
Yeah.
And that is the people. The people. When did you were part of the process?
Absolutely.
You drafted and consulted people.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Anything that changes, any fundamental change of that draft, you have to go back to consultation. You have to go back to consultation. Any fundamental change of that draft have to go back. Just like any law. You cannot.
And this is the argument. The government is saying they have the right to amend this constitution before reintroducing it back to the parliament.
The constitution says we, the people of the Gambia, in the people of the Gambia, you have these three arms of government.
Yeah.
The executive cannot do it alone. Okay, that's why did they set up the Constitutional Review Commission?
So the executive got it wrong.
They shouldn't have tampered with the constitution. They shouldn't have, without consulting people. They can make a draft and consult the people, and people have a final say on it. But not on their own and then try to explain. No. As I said, I'm not an expert in constitutional law. But I am saying that constitutional making is not a legal question. It's a political question. It's not a legal question. And the people of the Gambia did not give National Assembly power to make a constitution. They have limited powers under 1997 Constitution for amendment purposes of certain aspects. If you amend fundamental human rights, you go back to the people for referendum. Yes. So this one is the people that matter, and that's why I was surprised that in 1990 that was meant to be a new constitution went to National Assembly. For what? To do what? That's not what the people gave them power. So it shouldn't have gone there in the first place. So let's see it passed the National Assembly at that time, and people voted it down. What happens?
It will go to a referendum, and then we'll have a third republic. But the threshold for a referendum is 75%. If the total number of votes is, let's say we have 850,000 votes, at least 400,000 people must vote to have to make sure the constitution is adopted.
So why did this other one not go to the referendum?
No, because the National Assembly rejected it at the second reading.
Who gave them the power to reject it? That's what I'm talking about. Why did they get the legal mandate to reject the constitution? Because the constitution says that they can amend it. Fine.
Yeah.
But they cannot. With a new constitution, it's the people's power. As I said, it's not a legal question. It's not illegal. It's a political question.
Absolutely.
So I think it's not too late. Like this Senegalese musician, John Seka, based on rest in peace, he said, in Mandinka, near Silota, Tata Foyaje ko Amanke Siloti.
Yeah, Sila Dota.
Niha, Kamanke Joteati. Monkey Joteati. Sila, Munang, Isla Kota, Mimbe Sambalati good business. So my advice is actually there are competent people in the Gambia. There are very competent people in the Gambia. There are very competent people in the security sector. Let's remove political interference, because a security sector, that is not reform. The only person who pays the price is the political leadership. Anytime a security force misbehaves against civilians, they lost support from the family and people of the civilians. So they have to be very careful.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Wherever you're watching, this is the big interview with me, Seni Marena. In the studio is retired Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Buba Bojang, who is now working with FAO in Rome, Italy. Mr. Bojang, thank you for your brilliant expose during this interview, and I look forward to engaging you in many more interviews to come.
Thank you, Seni. Thank you so much. You won me this time, because I've not accepted many of these, but you persisted, and then you told me one thing that really break me. That's to say that some of you are keeping quiet on their experiences, and I think it's important that we share some of these experiences so that others might learn from it, and it might save lives. It might make somebody a good professional. And I'm happy that I came to the armed forces as the only lawyer, but when I left, there are at least 5 lawyers behind. So I think
you inspire those lawyers. I understand you inspire a lot of young people to take up lawyering in the Gambia armed forces. Many thanks, Dr. Bojang, for your time. It's a pleasure having you. Please, those watching, do enjoy the rest of our program. We'll come your way on Saturday for the final take with MK, and then another interesting guest. Until then, bye-bye for now. Thank you.